Every one of you who is in this room must consider yourself a global soul, a global citizen. You work on the front lines, and you've seen the best and the worst that human beings can do for one another and to one another. And no matter what country you live or work in, you've also seen the extraordinary things individuals are capable of. Now, entrepreneurs need patient capital for 3 reasons. First, they tend to work in markets where people make $1, $2, $3 a day, and they're making all of their decisions within that income level. Second, the geographies in which they work have terrible infrastructure, no roads to speak of, sporadic electricity, and high levels of corruption. And third, they are often creating markets. Even if you're bringing clean water for the first time into rural villages, it is something new. And so many low-income people have seen so many failed promises broken and seen so many quacks and sporadic medicines offered to them that building trust takes a lot of time. I want to share one story about an innovation called drip irrigation. In 2002, I met this incredible entrepreneur named Amitabh Sidhangi from India, who'd been working for 20 years with some of the poorest farmers on the planet. And he was expressing his frustration that the aid market had bypassed low-income farmers altogether, despite the fact that 200 million farmers alone in India make under $1 a day. They were creating subsidies either for large farms, or they were giving inputs to the farmers that they thought they should use, rather than that the farmers wanted to use. At the same time, Amitabh was obsessed with this drip irrigation technology that had been invented in Israel. It was a way of bringing small amounts of water directly to the stalk of the plant, and it could transform swaths of desert land into fields of emerald green. But the market also had bypassed low-income farmers because these systems were both too expensive and they were constructed for fields that were too large. The average smallholder farmer works on 2 acres or less. And so Amitabh decided that he would take that innovation and he would redesign it from the perspective of the poor farmers themselves, because he had spent so many years listening to what they needed, not what he thought that they should have. And he used 3 fundamental principles. The first one was miniaturization. The drip irrigation system had to be small enough that a farmer only had to risk a 1/4 acre, even if he had 2, because it was too frightening given all that he had at stake. Second, it had to be extremely affordable. In other words, that risk on the 1/4 acre needed to be repaid in a single harvest, or else they wouldn't take the risk. And third, it had to be what Amitabh calls infinitely expandable. What I mean is, with the profits from the first 1/4 acre, the farmers could buy a second, and a third, and a fourth. As of today, IDE India, Amitabh's organization, has sold over 300,000 farmers these systems and has seen their yields and incomes double or triple on average. But drip irrigation isn't the only innovation. We're starting to see these happening all around the world. In Arusha, Tanzania, A to Z textile manufacturing has worked in partnership with us, with UNICEF, with the Global Fund, to create a factory that now employs 7,000 people, mostly women, and they produce 20 million life-saving bed nets for Africans around the world. LifeSpring Hospital is a joint venture between Acumen and the government of India to bring quality, affordable maternal health care to low-income women. And it's been so successful that it's currently building a new hospital every 35 days. And 129 Ambulances decided that it was going to reinvent a completely broken industry, building an ambulance service in Bombay that would use the technology of Google Earth, a sliding scale pricing system so that all people could have access, and a severe and public decision not to engage in any form of corruption, so that in the terrorist attacks of November, they were the first responder and are now beginning to scale because of partnership. They've just won 4 government contracts to build off their 100 ambulances and are one of the largest and most effective ambulance companies in India. This idea of scale is critical because we're starting to see these enterprises reach hundreds of thousands of people. All of the ones I discussed have reached at least 250,000 people, but that's obviously not enough. And it's where the idea of partnership becomes so important, whether it's by finding those innovations that can access the capital markets, government itself, or partner with major corporations. There's unbelievable opportunity for innovation.